Hello, everyone. Beginning of March. Just want to give a quick overview as to, well, since we last talked, a lot has happened in the world. Israel and America have attacked Iran, and as of the 7th or the 6th of March, or 7th of March as it is today, it's still going on. But I suppose I've done a full podcast with Norm on this and the impact that it may have, but just to kind of give a quick summary here as to the impact it may have on the property market. Ultimately, it will depend on the effect on inflation. Oil, if the prices continue to go up, will impact inflation, and ultimately the European Central Bank, whose primary focus is on keeping inflation under control, and their primary method of our economic tool to do this is interest rates, would increase rates, which in effect would dampen demand. Now, as you know, I believe there's still such a big gap between supply and demand that I still wouldn't see house prices falling, just may not continue to go up as with the same rate as they did last year. That's just my thoughts anyway. Okay, well, here's the sort of what's happening in the pricing. Here's something that I think is really, really interesting. The house prices across Ireland are 25% higher than the 2007 peak. So obviously, there was a crash in 2008 and 2009. They're now 25% higher. Now, that's not in all areas, but it's just significant in that it would make me feel that maybe we're kind of at a ceiling where the rates or the houses prices can't go too much higher as things stand. This report here is predicting a price increase of 4% in 2026, kind of in line with my own thoughts on this, right? That there will still be an increase, but just not by as much as there had been previously. Then we're going to move on now to the housing availability. Hang on here. Right. This basically, the market remains tight. Okay. So at the end of December, there was basically 12,200 houses for sale, up basically 6% on the year, but down from 20,000 that were available prior to the COVID-19. So it's still very much, the supply is still the biggest issue because and that's the reason, in my opinion, house prices have not or have continued to go up at a great pace in the last year. So now, what do I want to discuss next? The next piece of the jigsaw really is kind of what we would call affordability. And well, I'm going to actually talk about the mortgage market first. So, and this kind of backs up what I was saying. Last year, there were 37,000 drawdowns in the full year, up a very small percentage, 3.4. But if you look at the actual total lending, that's gone up to 14.5 billion, up 15%, right? So it's really just the value of the mortgages have been going up because the prices have been going up. So really, that's where the issue is. The number, like the supply is still very much going up at a very small pace. So now this is interesting. This is a sort of a signal. The number of approvals from January was basically 330, but the number of approvals approved was down 10%. Now, I'm still seeing a huge interest in actual getting approved, and the numbers of people who are inquiring to us would suggest that that's just a temporary blip, but I could be wrong. So it's a figure we will watch with a lot of interest, because ultimately, if the number of people looking to buy is going to reduce, well, that obviously will reduce the demand. But again, going back up to the number of houses that are on sale, the 10, I think it's the 12,000 or houses on sale where there were 20,000, it's still a big gap. So the next thing then, and the final piece of the jigsaw, or what I want to discuss today, really is the sort of affordability. Okay, now this was done. The ECB had their last meeting before the attack on Iran, and they left the rates at 2%. Okay, and the message was that there wasn't really going to be, or they weren't anticipating any reduction in interest rates. Right here, this piece of information here ties very much in with the sort of the reduction in approvals, right? The affordability is becoming more stretched. There's 8 times now. The average salary is 53,000 across Ireland. But the average property sold at a price range of 426,000. So that's over 8 times, right? So that's again a significantly high figure. So again, another factor we should need to keep an eye on. Now, the ECB had, as I said, had this meeting before anything happened in Iran, but they'll be keeping a very strong eye on what's going to happen with the oil prices and inflation, and that will determine their next move. I would anticipate whether if they're worried about inflation, it might actually suggest that rates would go back up, which again would reduce the sort of pressure points on demand. So all in all, I would suggest that house prices are at a point whereby you might see a slight ending to the ridiculous bidding wars that are going on. Now, and a question I'd like to address is, would I personally buy a house right now? And I've said this many times, but I think it's worth repeating. If I'm buying a home right now, as long as I'm taking a long-term view, so maybe 10 to 15 years, then, and it ticks the boxes for buying a home. It ticks is it near schools? Is it near my friends? Is it near my family? Is it near my hobbies? Is it near my job? Any of those things whereby I can see myself, it enhances my lifestyle. Well, then I'd be more than happy to buy, because if the house prices were to go up or go down in the next 3 to 5 years, it won't make any difference because I'm not moving anywhere, okay? However, if I was taking a short-term view, as in, I'll just buy a house now to get on the market, well, then I might be a little bit more circumspect about it. So that's kind of my own personal take. Again, buying a home is very much an individual choice. If you feel the market's going to fall and you feel that you could get a better house by waiting, well, then obviously that would be your call on it. I wouldn't quite agree, because I just don't see house prices falling in the next 24 months, but that's just one man's opinion. Anyway, thank you for listening. I'm hoping to some good news for anyone who receives this email at the back of at the start of next month, but we'll keep you waiting in anticipation for that. Once again, if you have any questions around what I have discussed here today, just drop me a mail or book a call, and I'll tease everything out with you. Thanks for listening, and bye for now. Have a great March.